Admiral Park Hyun stood on the bridge of his command ship, looking out at the stars through the massive viewing window. The darkness of space stretched endlessly before him, dotted with tiny points of light that marked distant worlds. To most people in the galaxy, those stars represented the peaceful expansion of humanity across the cosmos. They had no idea what was really hidden in that darkness. Park Hyun was a tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. He had spent the last 30 years of his life keeping the biggest secret in human history. While the rest of the galaxy saw humans as quiet traders and miners, Park Hyun commanded the most powerful military force ever created. Behind him, the bridge crew worked quietly at their stations. These men and women knew the truth. They knew that humanity was not the weak, peaceful species that other aliens believed them to be. They were the guardians of the greatest deception in galactic history. Dr. Kim Yuna walked onto the bridge carrying a datapad in her hands. She was shorter than the Admiral, with black hair tied back in a neat ponytail. Her lab coat was stained with the marks of countless hours spent working on humanity's secret weapons. She had been the chief designer of the Titan project for 15 years, and her work would soon change everything. "Admiral," she said, bowing slightly, "the final tests are complete. All 12 ships are ready." Park Hyun nodded slowly. 12 Titan-class warships. Each one was over 50 kilometers long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. They were hidden in the dark spaces between stars, waiting for the day they would be needed. That day was coming soon. "How long until Captain Lee arrives?" Park Hyun asked. "His ship should dock within the hour," Dr. Kim replied. The Leviathan performed perfectly in the trials. The new fusion plasma hybrid engines work even better than we hoped. Captain Lee Do-yeon was the best ship commander in the human fleet. He was young for his rank, only 35 years old, but he had proven himself time and again in the secret training missions. His ship, the Leviathan, was the first completed Titan-class vessel. It would serve as the flagship when the time came to reveal humanity's true power. Park Hyun remembered the day, 25 years ago, when the human government had made the decision that would change everything. Earth's leaders had looked at the galaxy around them and seen nothing but violence and oppression. The Vorthan Empire conquered world after world, enslaving entire species. The ancient celestial hegemony ruled over countless civilizations with an iron fist. Smaller empires fought endless wars for territory and resources. Humanity had emerged into this chaotic galaxy as a young species with no great military tradition. Other aliens saw them as easy targets or useful tools. But human leaders had made a different choice. Instead of trying to compete in the open, they would build their strength in secret. They would let other species underestimate them, while they prepared for the day when they could change everything. The plan had worked perfectly. For 3 centuries, humanity had expanded across the galaxy, always appearing weak and peaceful. They traded with other species, mined asteroids, and built colonies on distant worlds. But in hidden shipyards beyond the edge of known space, they were building the largest military force in galactic history. Ambassador Choi Minho had played his part perfectly in this deception. For 20 years, he had represented humanity in the Galactic Council, always appearing humble and eager to please. The other ambassadors saw him as a minor figure from an unimportant species. They had no idea that every word they spoke in his presence was reported back to human intelligence services. Choi had learned much about the military capabilities of other species during his time on the Council. The Vorthan Empire had over 1 million warships, but they were built using old technology and poor tactics. The celestial hegemony had fewer ships, but they were more advanced and crewed by beings with powerful psychic abilities. Both empires were used to easy victories against weaker opponents. Neither had ever faced a truly prepared enemy. Dr. Kim Yuna had spent her entire career making sure humanity would be ready when that confrontation came. The Titan project was her life's work, but it was only part of a much larger effort. Human scientists had developed new types of armor that could adapt to any weapon. They had created artificial intelligence systems that could coordinate entire fleets as if they were single organisms. Most importantly, they had learned to build ships faster and cheaper than anyone else in the galaxy. The secret to human success was not just technology, but organization. While other species built their military forces around individual heroes or ancient traditions, humans had created a system that could produce trained officers and advanced ships at an incredible rate. Every human colony had hidden training facilities. Every trade convoy carried military supplies disguised as civilian cargo. Every mining operation was really gathering materials for the war machine. Captain Lee Do-hyun's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, this is Captain Lee requesting permission to dock." "Permission granted, Captain," Park Hyun replied. "Report to the bridge immediately upon arrival." 20 minutes later, Captain Lee entered the bridge. He was a lean man with alert eyes and quick movements. His uniform was perfectly pressed, and his bearing showed the confidence of someone who had commanded the most powerful warship ever built. "Admiral, the Leviathan is ready for deployment," he said, saluting crisply. "All systems tested and operational. The crew is eager to finally put our training to use." Park Hyun smiled grimly. "They may get that chance sooner than expected. Our intelligence sources report increased Vorthon military activity near human space. Ambassador Choi believes they may be planning something significant." Dr. Kim Yuna looked up from her datapad with concern. "How much time do we have?" "Unknown," Park Hyun replied. "But we must assume that our period of secret preparation is nearly over. The galaxy is about to discover what humanity has really been doing for the past 3 centuries. Captain Lee straightened. "Sir, the Leviathan and her crew are ready for whatever comes. We have trained for this moment our entire lives." Park Hyun nodded. Behind the calm expressions of his officers, he could see the excitement and nervousness that came before a great moment in history. For 300 years, humanity had watched other species fight and conquer across the galaxy. They had been patient, building their strength while appearing weak. But patience had its limits. The Admiral walked to the viewing window and looked out at the stars again. Somewhere out there in the darkness between worlds, 11 other Titan-class warships waited in silence. Each one carried a crew of the best-trained humans in the galaxy. Each one mounted weapons that could crack planets and defenses that could turn aside any attack. Together they represented the largest concentration of military power the galaxy had ever seen. But Park Hyun knew that ships and weapons alone would not be enough. The coming conflict would test not just human technology but human values. Other species conquered to gain power or wealth. Humanity would fight for something different. They would fight for the idea that all intelligent beings deserve to be free. The intercom crackled to life. "Admiral, we are receiving an urgent message from Earth. Priority Alpha. Classification, Park." Hyun exchanged glances with Dr. Kim and Captain Lee. Priority Alpha messages were reserved for only the most critical situations. The Admiral walked to his command chair and activated the secure communication link. The face that appeared on the screen belonged to General Song Min-woo, the head of Human Strategic Command. His expression was grim. "Admiral Park, we have received disturbing intelligence from our sources in Vorthon space. They are mobilizing their largest invasion fleet in over a century. Target unknown, but our analysts believe human space is the most likely destination." Park Hyun felt a cold certainty settle in his stomach. After 3 centuries of preparation, the moment of truth had finally arrived. "How long do we have, General?" "Preliminary estimates suggest no more than 30 standard days." "Admiral, it is time to activate the Titan Armada. The Age of Secrets is over." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in silence. Park Hyun looked at his officers and saw his own thoughts reflected in their faces. Everything they had worked for, everything they had prepared for was about to be tested. The galaxy was about to discover that humanity was not the weak, peaceful species they appeared to be. Soon, the stars themselves would shake with the thunder of human warships, and the cosmos would never be the same again. War Prime Keithax of the Vorthon Empire stood before the assembled Galactic Council, his massive form casting a shadow across the circular chamber. His species stood nearly 3 meters tall, with thick gray skin and 4 powerful arms. Scars from 100 battles marked his hide, and his red eyes burned with the fury of a conqueror who had never known defeat. The council chamber fell silent as Keithax raised his primary arms. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their floating seats, watching with fear and fascination. The Vorthon Empire had not made a formal appearance before the council in 50 years. When they did appear, it usually meant war for someone. "Members of this pathetic assembly," Keithax began, his voice echoing through the chamber like thunder. "The Vorthon Empire brings you an ultimatum concerning the human infestation." Ambassador Choi Min-ho sat in his modest seat near the back of the chamber, his face carefully showing no emotion. Inside, his heart was racing. He had expected this moment for years, but now that it had arrived, he felt the weight of history pressing down on him. The humans have grown too bold. Keithax continued. They spread across our galaxy like a disease, taking worlds that should belong to stronger species. They build their colonies in systems that the Vorthan Empire requires for our expansion. This ends now. The War Prime activated a holographic display that showed human space in detail. Red markers indicated Vorthan claims on dozens of human worlds. The assembled aliens gasped at the scope of the demand. 30 galactic standard days, Keithax announced. The humans have 30 days to abandon these worlds and submit to proper Vorthan rule. Their industrial capabilities will serve the Empire. Their people will learn the value of serving their betters. If they refuse, we will demonstrate why the Vorthan Empire has conquered 47 species in the last millennium. Choi Minho requested permission to speak, and the council moderator granted it with obvious reluctance. The ambassador stood slowly, his small human form looking fragile next to the towering alien representatives. Honored War Prime, Choi said, bowing respectfully. Humanity has always sought peaceful coexistence with all species. Surely we can find a diplomatic solution that benefits everyone. Keithax's laugh was like the roar of a predator. Diplomacy is for equals, little human. Your species exists because we have allowed it. That tolerance ends in 30 days. On Earth, President Nam Yoonji watched the council proceedings through a secure transmission. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen too much of war and politics. Around her, the leaders of humanity's secret military program waited for her decision. General Song, she said quietly, how ready are we? General Song Minwoo stepped forward. He was a veteran of the secret wars humanity had fought to prepare for this moment. His uniform bore no decorations that other species would recognize, but every human military officer knew his reputation. All Titan-class vessels are operational and in position, he reported. Our shipyards are ready to begin mass production. The fleet commanders are awaiting your orders. President Nam Yoonji nodded slowly. For 300 years, humanity had prepared for this day. They had built their military strength in secret while pretending to be weak and peaceful. Now the mask would finally come off. Activate all protocols, she ordered. It is time to show the galaxy who we really are. Across human space, hidden installations began to reveal themselves. Asteroid mining stations opened like flowers, exposing massive gun batteries and missile launchers. Trade convoys shed their civilian disguises, revealing sleek warships beneath false cargo hulls. On 1,000 worlds, military bases that had been hidden underground rose to the surface. Captain Bae Jawan sat in the cockpit of her fighter craft, waiting in the launch bay of a Titan-class warship. She was one of the elite pilots trained to fly the most advanced combat ships in human space. Her fighter was no larger than the civilian shuttles other species used, but it carried weapons that could destroy ships 100 times its size. All pilots, this is flight control, came the voice over her radio. Prepare for deployment. Operation Revelation begins in 6 hours. Bae Ji-won checked her instruments one final time. She had trained for this moment her entire adult life, practicing maneuvers and tactics that no alien pilot had ever seen. Today, she would help demonstrate that humanity was not the easy target the Vorthan Empire believed. Meanwhile, Commander Yoon Jae-hyun was completing his final reconnaissance mission in Vorthan space. His stealth ship was invisible to alien sensors, allowing him to observe enemy fleet movements without being detected. What he saw confirmed their worst fears. The Vorthan invasion fleet was massive beyond imagination. Over 200,000 warships were gathering in the outer systems of the Empire. Dreadnoughts the size of small cities floated alongside carriers that could launch thousands of fighters. The aliens were not planning a simple conquest. They intended to completely destroy human resistance in a single overwhelming attack. Yoon transmitted his findings back to Human Command and began the long journey home. His stealth ship would arrive just hours before the Vorthan fleet, giving humanity precious little time to complete their preparations. Back on Earth, Dr. Kim Yuna was putting the finishing touches on humanity's greatest secret weapon. The quantum-linked AI command system would allow human ships to coordinate their movements with perfect precision. While alien fleets relied on slow communication systems and independent commanders, human ships would fight as a single organism. Doctor, how long until the network is fully online? Asked her assistant. Less than 4 hours, Dr. Kim replied, not looking up from her work. Once activated, every human warship in the galaxy will be connected. Our enemies will face an opponent unlike anything they have ever encountered. The AI system was housed in a massive facility beneath the Earth's surface. Quantum computers the size of buildings processed tactical information at incredible speeds. When the system went online, it would give humanity an advantage that no alien species could match. Admiral Park Hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as the Titan Armada prepared for its first real battle. 12 massive ships hung in space like sleeping giants, their dark hulls bristling with weapons that could crack planets. Each ship was crewed by over 10,000 of humanity's finest soldiers and officers. "Admiral, all ships report ready for battle," Captain Lee announced. "The fleet is positioned and waiting for your orders." Park Hyun nodded. In a few hours, these ships would reveal themselves to the galaxy for the first time. The aliens who had dismissed humanity as weak would discover their mistake in the most dramatic way possible. "Signal all captains," the Admiral ordered. "Today we end 3 centuries of hiding. Today the galaxy learns what humanity can do when we stop pretending to be weak." On the distant Vorthan homeworld, War Prime Keithax reviewed the final invasion plans with his generals. The alien commanders were confident of easy victory. Human ships were small and poorly armed according to their intelligence reports. Human worlds had minimal defensive installations. The conquest would be over in days, possibly hours. "The first wave will consist of 50,000 ships," Keithax explained to his officers. "We will overwhelm their defenses before they can organize any meaningful resistance. The second wave will occupy their industrial worlds. The third wave will hunt down any survivors." None of the Vorthon officers questioned the plan. They had used similar tactics to conquer dozens of species. Humans would be no different from the other weak civilizations they had crushed. But across human space, the final preparations were reaching completion. Hidden shipyards that had operated in secret for centuries were revealed, showing industrial capabilities that dwarfed even the mighty Vorthon Empire. Weapon systems that had been tested in absolute secrecy came online, their power readings making even human scientists nervous. Admiral Shin Tae-hyung commanded the 2nd Titan Squadron from his flagship, the Goliath. He was known throughout the human fleet for his aggressive tactics and his hatred of alien oppression. His ships were positioned to strike at the Vorthan rear guard when the invasion began. "All hands, this is the Admiral," he announced over the ship's communication system. "For 300 years we have watched alien empires enslave and destroy peaceful species. Today we show them that humanity will not tolerate their cruelty any longer." Dr. Oh Soo-hyun was making final adjustments to the spacefold, technology that would allow human ships to appear anywhere in the galaxy within minutes. The aliens relied on slow hyperspace travel that took days or weeks to cross galactic distances. Human ships could fold space itself, arriving at battle locations before their enemies even knew they were coming. As the final hours counted down, Captain Kang Nari briefed her elite boarding teams. These soldiers were trained to capture alien technology and disable enemy ships from within. They wore advanced armor that could survive in the vacuum of space and carried weapons that could cut through any known material. "Remember your training," she told her troops. "We are not just fighting for humanity's survival. We are fighting for the freedom of every species in the galaxy. The aliens will learn today that oppression has a price." The moment of truth was approaching. Across human space, millions of soldiers and officers prepared for the battle that would change Galactic. The Vorthan invasion fleet entered the Sol system like a plague of locusts, their ships darkening the space around Earth's sun. 200,000 warships in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with the confidence of conquerors who had never known defeat. War Prime Keithax stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Devastator, expecting to see human ships fleeing in panic. Instead, he saw something that made his blood freeze in his veins. 12 massive shapes hung in space between the Vorthan fleet and Earth. Each one was larger than anything Keithax had ever seen. Stretching over 50 kilometers from bow to stern, their dark hulls seemed to absorb light itself, making them appear like holes cut in the fabric of space. Around them, hundreds of smaller ships waited in perfect formation. "What are those things?" demanded General Vex, Keithax's second-in-command. The alien's 4 eyes were wide with shock as he stared at the massive human vessels. Admiral Park Hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the humanity's pride, watching the alien fleet with calm satisfaction. For 3 centuries, humanity had prepared for this moment. Now the galaxy would finally see what they had built in the darkness between stars. "All ships, this is Admiral Park," he announced over the fleet communication network. "Today we reveal humanity's true strength to the galaxy, show them what we have learned in 300 years of secret preparation." Captain Lee Do-hyun commanded the Leviathan, positioned at the center of the human formation. His ship was the prototype for all Titan-class vessels, and it would strike the first blow in humanity's war for galactic freedom. "Target the enemy flagship," Lee ordered his weapons officer. "Prepare the primary particle beam array." The weapons officer, Lieutenant Kim Hana, had trained for this moment her entire life. Her fingers moved across the targeting controls with practiced precision. "Primary array charged and ready, Captain. Target locked." On the Vorthon flagship, sensors detected massive energy readings from the human ships. The aliens had never seen power levels like these before. Their own weapons seemed like toys in comparison. "All ships attack formation," Keithax ordered, trying to maintain his confidence. "Destroy these human abominations. Show them the power of the Vorthon Empire." The first wave of Vorthon ships accelerated toward the human fleet, their plasma cannons charging for battle. These aliens had conquered 47 civilizations using the same tactics. Overwhelming numbers and superior firepower had never failed them before. They were about to learn that humanity was not like their previous victims. "Fire," Captain Lee ordered quietly. The Leviathan's primary particle beam lanced out across space, a line of pure energy that seemed to tear reality itself. The beam struck the leading Vorthon battle group and simply erased them from existence. 20 massive warships vanished in an instant, their atoms scattered to cosmic dust. Across the human fleet, 11 other Titan-class ships opened fire simultaneously. Beams of impossible energy reached out like the fingers of angry gods, each one destroying entire squadrons of alien vessels. In the first 30 seconds of battle, the humans eliminated over 1,000 Vorthon ships. Dr. Kim Yuna watched the battle from the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. Her quantum-linked AI system was coordinating the entire human fleet with perfect precision. Every shot was calculated, every movement planned to maximum efficiency. "Incredible," whispered her assistant. "The coordination is flawless. It's like watching a single organism with hundreds of parts." The Vorthon fleet tried to respond with their own weapons, but their plasma cannons barely scratched the human ship's armor. The Titan-class vessels were protected by adaptive plating that adjusted its molecular structure to counter any attack. What would have destroyed a normal ship only left scorch marks on the human hulls. Captain Bae-ji-won launched from the Leviathan with her fighter squadron, their small ships darting between the massive alien vessels like deadly insects. Her fighter carried weapons that seemed impossible for such a small craft. Microfusion warheads that could crack battleship hulls, particle beams that could slice through armor like it was paper. "Fighter wings, begin assault runs on enemy carriers," she ordered over the radio. "Show them what human pilots can do." The human fighters moved with inhuman precision, their every maneuver coordinated by the AI system. They struck at the alien ship's weak points with surgical accuracy, disabling weapon systems and destroying engine clusters. Within minutes, dozens of Vorthon carriers were drifting helplessly in space. War Prime Keithax watched his fleet being systematically destroyed and felt something he had never experienced before: fear. His ships, which had conquered countless worlds, were being torn apart like children's toys. "How is this possible?" he roared at his sensor officers. "Where did the humans get such weapons?" But there was worse to come. As several thousand Vorthon ships tried to retreat, they discovered that escape was impossible. Captain Lee's Leviathan activated its reality anchor system, a weapon that human scientists had developed in absolute secrecy. Space itself began to change around the fleeing aliens. The normal laws of physics twisted and bent as massive gravitational fields locked down the local area of spacetime. Ships that tried to enter hyperspace found themselves trapped in normal space, unable to escape the killing field that the Sol system had become. Commander Yoon Jae-hyun watched from his stealth ship as the Vorthon fleet realized they were trapped. The aliens who had seemed so confident just hours before were now fleeing in panic, only to discover that humanity had sealed their fate. "Command, this is Recon 7, he reported. "Reality anchors are functioning perfectly. No enemy ships have successfully escaped the battle zone. Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched the battle through their long-range sensors. The ancient celestial hegemony had ruled galactic affairs for 10,000 years, but even they had never seen military technology like this. In their crystal palaces, ancient beings who remembered the dawn of civilization stirred with something approaching alarm. On the council station, Ambassador Choi Minho addressed the assembled representatives through an emergency session. His humble manner was gone, replaced by the confidence of someone representing a true galactic power. "Honored delegates," he said formally, "for 3 centuries humanity has observed the violence and oppression that plague our galaxy. We have watched stronger species prey upon the weak, enslaving entire civilizations for their own benefit. Today that age comes to an end." The alien ambassadors stared at him in shock. The humble human they had dismissed as insignificant was speaking with the authority of someone whose species could back up their words with overwhelming force. Dr. Oh Soo-hyun activated the spacefold systems that allowed human reinforcements to arrive instantly at any point in the galaxy. Additional Titan-class ships began appearing in the Sol system, their massive forms materializing from folded space like nightmares becoming real. "Incredible," breathed the Altarian ambassador. "They can fold space itself. How long have they possessed such technology?" Admiral Shin Tae-hyung's 2nd Titan Squadron emerged from spacefold near the rear of the Vorthan fleet. His ships immediately opened fire on the alien vessels, trapping them between 2 lines of human firepower. The aliens found themselves caught in a perfect tactical trap. "This is Admiral Shin to all Vorthan vessels," he broadcast on their communication frequencies. "You came to our space expecting easy conquest. Instead, you have found that humanity is not the weak prey you believed us to be." Captain Kang Nari led her boarding teams onto captured Vorthan vessels, their advanced armor allowing them to fight in the vacuum of space itself. The aliens had never encountered soldiers like these before, human warriors who could survive in any environment and whose weapons could cut through any defense. "Secure the bridge," she ordered her teams. "We need to capture their command codes and communication systems." The boarding actions were swift and decisive. Human soldiers moved through alien ships like unstoppable forces of nature, their training and equipment far superior to anything the Vorthon military had encountered. As the battle continued, it became clear that this was not just a military defeat for the Vorthon Empire. It was the complete destruction of their myth of invincibility. Ships that had conquered dozens of worlds were being destroyed by the hundreds, their crews learning too late that humanity was not like their previous victims. War Prime Kethax made one final desperate attempt to salvage something from the disaster. He ordered his remaining ships to target Earth itself, hoping to force the humans to negotiate by threatening their homeworld. The response was swift and merciless. Admiral Park Hyun's flagship moved to intercept the alien attack, its massive bulk accelerating with impossible grace. The Humanity's Pride positioned itself directly between the Vorthon ships and Earth, its weapons arrays glowing with deadly energy. "You want to threaten our world?" Park Hyun broadcast to the alien fleet. "Then face the consequences of your aggression." The Titan-class ship's secondary weapon systems came online, launching swarms of hunter-killer drones that moved through space like living things. Each drone was equipped with artificial intelligence that made it smarter than most alien pilots. They swarmed over the Vorthan ships, systematically destroying engines, weapons, and life support systems. The crystal spires of the celestial hegemony's capital world had stood for 50,000 years, reaching toward the stars like frozen lightning. Within their translucent walls, the ancient beings who ruled half the galaxy gathered in emergency council. They had not convened such a meeting since the precursor wars ended 5 million years ago. Archon Zephyros, eldest of the hegemony rulers, studied the battle reports with growing unease. His form was barely physical anymore, more energy than matter after millennia of evolution beyond flesh. Around him, his fellow Archons flickered with colors that showed their emotional states. Today, those colors were dark with worry. "The humans destroyed 200,000 Vorthon vessels in 6 hours, reported Archon Nalith, her voice like wind chimes in a storm. "Their weapons technology exceeds our own by several generations. How did they develop such capabilities without our knowledge?" Fleet Admiral Lim Ha-young stood on the observation deck of her flagship, the eternal vigilance watching as the expanded Titan Armada took formation around her. 50 massive ships now floated in the darkness between galaxies, each one a monument to human engineering and determination. The fleet had grown from 12 to 50 ships in just weeks, as hidden shipyards revealed their true capabilities. "Admiral, we're receiving communication requests from over 300 different species," reported her aide. "Everyone wants to know if the rumors about our capabilities are true." Lim smiled. The galaxy had spent centuries ignoring humanity, dismissing them as a minor species suitable only for trade and labor. Now those same aliens were desperate to understand how humans had become the most powerful military force in known space. Intelligence Director Wan Kyung-hee reviewed the reports flooding in from across the galaxy. Her network of human agents, embedded in alien governments for decades, was finally revealing its true scope. Every major empire had been penetrated, their military secrets laid bare to human analysis. "The hegemony is mobilizing their full fleet," she reported to the War Council. "Over 10,000 ships, including their ancient dreadnoughts from the precursor wars. They're also reaching out to former enemies, trying to build a coalition against us." President Nam Yoonji listened to the reports with satisfaction. The plan was working perfectly. For 3 centuries, humanity had appeared weak while building the greatest military force in galactic history. Now the established powers were scrambling to respond to a threat they had never seen coming. "What about the smaller civilizations?" she asked. 67 species have requested protection or alliance," Wan replied. "They're tired of being bullied by the empires. Word is spreading that humans fight for freedom, not conquest." Captain Park Jin-soo commanded the newest and largest Titan-class vessel, the Behemoth. At 70 kilometers in length, it was more mobile fortress than starship. Its weapons could destabilize stars, and its defenses could turn aside any known attack. Standing on its bridge was like commanding a small city that could travel between worlds. "Captain, long-range sensors detect a hegemony probe fleet entering human space," his sensor officer reported. 12 vessels, advanced configuration." Park smiled coldly. The hegemony wanted to test human defenses, to see if the reports of their capabilities were exaggerated. They were about to learn that the Battle of Seoul had been humanity holding back, not showing their full strength. "Signal the probe fleet," he ordered. "Inform them they have entered human-protected space without authorization. They have 1 hour to withdraw or face the consequences." The hegemony probe fleet was commanded by Admiral Quickstar, a being whose species had conquered star systems when humans were still living in caves. His ships were works of art as much as weapons of war, their hulls shaped by technology that manipulated matter at the quantum level. "The humans dare to threaten us." Quickstar laughed, the sound like breaking crystal. "We ruled this galaxy when their species had not yet discovered fire. Send them a demonstration of true power." The hegemony ships opened fire with weapons that warped space itself, turning the very fabric of reality into a weapon. These were the tools that had maintained their empire for 10 millennia, forcing entire species to bow before their might. The human response was immediate and devastating. The Behemoth's defensive systems activated, bending space-time around the ship to redirect the hegemony weapons harmlessly into empty space. Then the massive vessel's return fire reached out across the light years, particle beams that moved at near light speed and struck with the force of colliding planets. Admiral Quickstar watched in disbelief as his most advanced warships were simply erased from existence. The humans had not just blocked attacks that had toppled empires, they had turned them aside as easily as deflecting raindrops. "Impossible," he whispered as his flagship shook under the impact of human weapons. "No species possesses such technology." Captain Park's voice came over the communication channels, calm and professional. "Admiral Quickstar, this is your final warning. Withdraw from human space immediately, or join the rest of your fleet in destruction." The surviving hegemony ships fled, their commander's pride shattered along with his belief in his civilization's supremacy. Within hours, word of the encounter had reached every corner of the galaxy. The ancient celestial hegemony, rulers of countless worlds, had been defeated as easily as the Vorthon Empire. Dr. Ryu Minji worked frantically in her laboratory, putting the finishing touches on humanity's ultimate weapon. The quantum cascade array was designed to counter the hegemony's most devastating capability, their ability to enslave entire species through psychic domination. "The field generators are online," she reported to her team. "When activated, the array will disrupt psychic energy across several star systems. The hegemony's mind-controlled technology will be useless against us." Ambassador Choi Minho stood before the Galactic Council once again, but this time the other representatives looked at him with fear and respect instead of Dismissive contempt. The chamber was nearly empty as many species had recalled their ambassadors to deal with the crisis. The Celestial, Hegemony and Vorthan Empire have spent millennia enslaving weaker species, Choi announced to the remaining delegates. They have turned conquest into an art form, crushing any civilization that dared to seek freedom. Humanity will no longer tolerate such oppression. The few alien ambassadors who remained exchanged worried glances. The human was no longer asking for permission or seeking compromise. He was delivering an ultimatum backed by the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever seen. "What do you want from us?" asked the Zephyrian representative, her voice trembling with fear. "Simple," Choi replied. "Immediate cessation of all slavery and forced subjugation, democratic representation for every species in your territories, and recognition of humanity's role as protector of galactic freedom." Captain Cho Woo-jin piloted the experimental vessel Infinity through dimensions that existed beyond normal space. His ship was equipped with prototype technology that allowed it to move through parallel realities, making it effectively invisible to enemy sensors. He was scouting the Hegemony's ultimate weapon, preparing for the final confrontation. "Command, this is Infinity Actual," he transmitted through quantum-encrypted channels. "I have eyes on the target. The world render is even larger than our estimates suggested." The Hegemony's ultimate weapon was a moon-sized battle station that had been under construction for over 1,000 years. Powered by the enslaved psychic energy of an entire species, it could destroy stars or warp reality itself across multiple star systems. It was the kind of weapon that could end civilizations with a single shot. "Understood, Infinity Actual," came the reply from Admiral Yang Seojun, overall commander of humanity's military forces. "Maintain observation and report any changes. The final battle is approaching." Across hegemony space, ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy since before recorded history prepared for their greatest test. They had faced rebellions before, crushed uprisings by species that thought they could challenge the established order. But humanity was different. These newcomers possessed technology that rivaled their own. And worse, they fought for ideals that threatened the very foundation of imperial rule. "The humans must be stopped," declared Archon Zephyros at the Emergency Council. "If their ideology of freedom spreads, it will destroy everything we have built. Every species will demand independence. Every world will reject our guidance." The other Archons flickered with agreement. They had maintained their empire through careful balance of power and the promise that resistance was futile. Humanity threatened to upset that balance forever. Meanwhile, in the hidden reaches of human space, the industrial might that had been concealed for 3 centuries revealed its true scope. Shipyards that could construct Titan-class vessels in weeks instead of years worked around the clock. Weapons factories that had operated in secret produced armaments beyond alien comprehension. Training facilities graduated officers and soldiers who were prepared for any challenge the galaxy could present. General Song Minwoo reviewed the final battle plans with his staff. The coming confrontation would determine whether humanity's vision of galactic freedom would become reality, or whether the ancient empires would crush this new threat to their dominance. The space between galaxies had never witnessed a battle like this. 2 great fleets faced each other across the cosmic void, their weapons capable of reshaping reality itself. On one side, the world render and its escort fleet of 10,000 hegemony vessels, ancient beyond measure and powered by technologies that predated human civilization. On the other, humanity's Titan Armada, 150 massive ships surrounded by 10,000 cruisers and 1,000,000 smaller craft. Supreme Admiral Yang Seojun stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Unconquerable, watching as the hegemony's ultimate weapon approached. The world render was larger than Earth's moon, its crystalline surface pulsing with the stolen psychic energy of an entire enslaved species. For 1,000 years, the hegemony had used this weapon to enforce their rule across the galaxy. "All ships, this is Supreme Admiral Yang," he announced across the fleet communication network. "Today we fight not just for humanity's survival, but for the freedom of every thinking being in the galaxy. Show them what we can achieve when we fight for something greater than ourselves." Dr. Ryu Minji's quantum cascade array activated from its hidden position near the battle zone. Immediately, the psychic energies that powered the world render began to fluctuate. The enslaved beings whose life force fed the weapon suddenly found their mental chains weakening. Cascade array at full power, she reported to Fleet Command. Psychic disruption is affecting their primary systems. The enslaved entities are beginning to resist their captors. Captain Cho Woojin guided the Infinity through dimensions that existed parallel to normal space, his experimental ship moving like a ghost through the enemy formation. His mission was crucial. Locate and free the psychic entities that powered the hegemony's ultimate weapon. Command, I've identified the containment chambers, he transmitted. The hegemony is using an entire species as living batteries. If we can break their restraints, the weapon will turn against its creators. The battle began when Archon Zephyros, eldest of the hegemony rulers, ordered his fleet to attack. Ancient weapons that could warp space itself reached out across the void, seeking to crush humanity before they could threaten the established order. These were the tools that had maintained imperial rule for 10 millennia, but humanity had learned from 3 centuries of careful observation and preparation. The Titan-class ships' defensive systems bent space-time around them, redirecting the hegemony attacks harmlessly into empty space. What should have been devastating blows became mere light shows against the cosmic background. Admiral Park Hyun's Humanity's Pride led the counterattack, its massive particle beam arrays firing with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. The beams reached across light years to strike hegemony vessels with devastating accuracy. Ships that had terrorized entire star systems for millennia simply vanished under the human. "Assault impossible," whispered Archon Nalith as she watched, her most advanced warships being systematically destroyed. These humans are barely 3 centuries out of their caves. How do they possess such power? Captain Lee Doyun's Leviathan coordinated with the fleet's AI network to execute maneuvers that no alien commander could comprehend. 150 Titan-class ships moved as a single organism, their every action planned with perfect efficiency. Where alien fleets relied on individual heroics and ancient traditions, humanity fought with the precision of a machine and the passion of a cause. The turning point came when Captain Cho's Infinity reached the heart of the world render. The enslaved psychic entities had been trapped for 1,000 years, their life force stolen to power the hegemony's ultimate weapon. But Dr. Ryu's quantum cascade array had weakened their bonds, and the sight of humans fighting for freedom awakened something in their tortured minds. "This is Infinity Actual," Cho transmitted as he worked to break the containment systems. "The psychic entities are responding to our presence. They want to be free." The moment the containment fields collapsed, everything changed. The enslaved beings, ancient and powerful beyond measure, turned their fury on their captors. The world render shook as psychic energy that had been carefully controlled for centuries suddenly ran wild. Archon Zephyros felt the rebellion through his neural links to the weapon. "No, the livestock are turning against us. How is this possible?" Admiral Yang watched as the enemy's ultimate weapon began tearing itself apart from within. But he knew the battle was far from over. The hegemony still had thousands of ships and millions of years of combat experience. "All ships, press the attack," he ordered. "We have them on the defensive. Don't let them regroup." Captain Bei Jiwan led her fighter squadrons through the chaos of the battle, her small craft darting between massive capital ships like deadly insects. Her pilots moved with inhuman precision, their every maneuver coordinated by the fleet AI. They struck at critical systems and weak points, disabling ships that could have fought for hours against conventional weapons. The liberated psychic entities reached out across space, their minds touching every human in the fleet. For the first time in galactic history, 2 completely different forms of consciousness worked together toward a common goal. The aliens who had been enslaved for a millennium found allies in the young species that fought for freedom. "We sense your purpose, young ones," came a voice that spoke directly into human minds. "You fight not for conquest but for liberty. We will aid you in this righteous cause." The combined power of human technology and ancient psychic abilities proved unstoppable. Hegemony ships that had ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years found themselves outmatched by an alliance they had never imagined possible. Admiral Shin Taehyung's 2nd Titan Squadron flanked the enemy formation, trapping the hegemony fleet between multiple lines of human firepower. His aggressive tactics had been perfectly suited for this moment, when decisive action could change the course of galactic history. "This is Admiral Shin to all hegemony vessels," he broadcast on their communication frequencies. "Your reign of oppression is over. Surrender now, and we will show you the mercy you never showed your victims." Some alien commanders, seeing their ultimate weapon turned against them, and their most advanced ships being destroyed, chose to surrender rather than face annihilation. Others fought to the end, unable to accept that their ancient empire could be defeated by such a young species. The world render finally collapsed under the combined assault of human weapons and psychic rebellion. The massive station that had enforced hegemony rule for a millennium became an expanding cloud of debris, taking with it the symbol of alien supremacy. As the battle reached its climax, Admiral Yang made the decision that would define humanity's role in galactic affairs. With the hegemony fleet in ruins and their leaders facing capture or death, he could have pressed his advantage to destroy them completely. Instead, he chose a different path. "Attention all remaining hegemony forces," he broadcast across all frequencies. "We offer you terms of peace. Renounce your claims of dominion over other species, grant independence to all subjugated worlds, and accept limited sovereignty over your core territories. This is your only chance to avoid complete destruction." Archon Zephyros, his crystalline form flickering with defeat and confusion, struggled to understand what was happening. "They offer us mercy? After we tried to enslave them? What manner of beings are these humans?" President Nam Yunji's voice joined the transmission from Earth, her words carrying the authority of humanity's elected leader. "We fight not for conquest, but for the principle that all intelligent beings deserve freedom. Accept our terms and learn to coexist peacefully with your neighbors." The surrender came in stages. First, individual ship commanders laid down their arms. Then entire fleet formations accepted the human terms. Finally, the surviving Archons themselves transmitted their formal surrender, ending 10,000 years of imperial rule. Captain Lee stood on the bridge of the Leviathan, now promoted to Fleet Admiral, watching as representatives from hundreds of species arrived at the neutral station of Haven 7. They came to witness the signing of the new Cosmic Accords, the treaty that would reshape galactic civilization. The ceremony took place in a vast chamber that could hold delegates from every known species. Ambassador Choi Minho, no longer the humble representative of a minor civilization, presided over the proceedings as humanity's chief diplomat. "Today marks the end of the Age of Empire," he announced to the assembled delegates. "No longer will the strong prey upon the weak. No longer will entire species live in bondage to alien masters. Today we begin the era of galactic freedom." The former imperial powers signed first, their signatures marking the formal end of their claims to dominion over other worlds. The Vorthon Empire, reduced to a fraction of its former size, accepted autonomy for their subject species. The celestial hegemony, humbled by defeat, agreed to democratic governance and equal representation for all beings in their former territories. Then came the moment that changed everything. Hundreds of previously enslaved species stepped forward to sign as free and independent civilizations. Beings who had known only subjugation for millennia raised their heads as equals in the galactic community. Dr. Kim Yuna watched the ceremony from her laboratory, surrounded by the technology that had made victory possible.